This is an audiobook for fanfiction named Omniverse Trip with Gacha System, Seirei Gensouki, by none other than yours truly, Iekami _1126. This is the part 2 of this series, containing chapters from 6 to 10. Synopsis. Important things first. Reincarnation, wishes, a system, Iekami, magic, harem, doing whatever I MC want, semi-op MC, revenge. This story has all of those. Omniverse travel, robbing whole worlds, kingdom building, yes to all of these. MC is semi-op and is on his path to becoming op. Sharing gun at the start? Nope. But MC has 10 season. Shameless MC? Yep. Shameless comedy? Yep, from time to time. NTR. Nope, I am not a fan of that stuff. I am writing this novel after reading fanfic on web novel in which the writer writes whatever he wants, so keep that in mind that it has also affected me. The book version of this story is being uploaded on scibblehub and web novel every Monday. Let's continue the story from chapter 6. Chapter 6, Waiting and Progress. Waking up the next day early in the morning, the first thing I did is to summon my shadow avatar and ordered it to combine with my shadow and gain all of the experience it has accumulated overnight in swordsmanship, and I have to say, it worked well as according to my stats sheet I almost reached the 12/100ths mark between level 5 and level 6 in my swordsmanship skill in just one night. After gaining the experience, I immediately went to my farm where I converted all that gained experience into my own. Then I did some exercise followed by a short meditation session to increase my physical and mental strength, then a short practice session of occlumency. Doing all this, I took a nice bath, and this time it was a proper one in a proper bathtub. Then changing into my academy clothes, I eat a hearty breakfast with Tifa. And while eating the breakfast, Tifa gave me some happy news, which is that when she woke up this morning she came to know that she has also acquired chakra. Now she can also use it. If you all are thinking how is it possible as spirits are pure mana beings, then hear me out. When I was wishing for my second wish, my exact words were like this: my second wish, I want artificial intelligence in a form of spirit like I'm imagining right now for my system, which is also connected to my inner world, and the system itself. Here, focus on the words form of spirit like I am imagining right now. And at that time I was imagining a spirit that can use all the energy types that I can use. So, after yesterday night when I acquired chakra, Tifa also acquired it at that time. It just took some time to manifest. Now Tifa can be defined as the combination of both spirits and chakra beings like tailed beasts from Naruto, as they are made up of pure chakra. After eating breakfast, I spend some time with Tifa as we harvest the first batch of the crops grown on the farm, and then store them in the warehouse. Then we planted a new batch of crops which will be ready to harvest by tomorrow morning, the same time as today. Even with the 10x growth factor due to the special soil and water on the farm, it still took one day at a minimum for the crops to mature and be ready to be harvested. Doing all this, I started practicing mana control to increase my mana control, followed by chakra control practice using leaf concentration exercise. I continued to do this until it was time for me to go to the academy. Once it was time, I picked up my books and notebooks and went to the Royal Academy under the gaze of noble kids that were looking at me as if I were a unique animal that they had never seen before. But still, there were a little fewer gazes than yesterday, which is a good thing. And it continued to be the case for the whole day, as nothing happened, other than me surprising the whole class that I reached their level in mathematics in just one day. Other than this, I also surprised Celia when she came to know how fast I learned how to read and write. It was really funny to see how Celia flapped her lips like a fish out of the water when she tested to confirm that I learned how to read and write. Then I innocently teased Celia, to which she blushed and pouted in anger. And after all this fun, Celia became serious and followed the path of a true friend. She advised me to hide my real capabilities for a while, as it can earn the anger of the noble kids, as I'm an orphan who can reach the same level as them in just one day, which they took years to reach. So, I think you can understand how much commotion this news will create if leaked outside. Other than this, there are also some chances that people like Charles Albert will take advantage of this news to frame me as a spy from enemy forces, to wash their previous shame when Flora got kidnapped from under their noses, as it is really unheard and unbelievable that an orphan can learn all this in just one day without any prior education. In such a case, being an enemy spy is the most appropriate and reasonable thing people can come up with. So, following Celia's advice, I decided to hide my true learning capabilities for a while to avoid being suspected as an enemy spy. Other than this, I also didn't forget to send my shadow avatar after Alphonse, and it also mentally contacted me when it reached Alphonse's house and started his search for Latifa with the help of the device that can locate reincarnated souls in an area of 100 square meters around it, with the device itself being the center. T4 bought this device for me from the system shop at a cost of 300 SP. Now the only thing I can do is to wait for the results, which are estimated to take days to come out, as, like most of the nobles, the Rodin house from which Alphonse came is also one of those nobles who believe that a bigger mansion symbolizes their pride, wealth, status and power in the kingdom. And I am saying all this based on the information and images I gained from my shadow avatar, and alone from the image of their estate. I can assume that it would take my shadow at least 2 to 3 days in order to find Latifa's whereabouts. That's why I have ordered my shadow to stick to Alphonse while he is inside the estate and search the estate only when Alphonse sleeps at night or comes to academy. While waiting for my shadow to find Latifa's whereabouts, I wasn't idle either. I also did my best to improve my strength in that, both physically and mentally, while learning what can be beneficial for me from the library. And I did find something useful for myself. It is an ancient technique to increase one's mana reserves by absorbing the mana present in the outside world. But the only downside to this method is that it takes a very long time to show effect, since there is a limit to which a person can absorb outside mana, as it can be harmful in large quantities. But it is not a problem for me, as I have my own world, my farm, in which the density of mana present in the atmosphere is 10 times denser than what is present in this world. And I have also confirmed with Tifa that I can absorb unlimited mana present inside the farm, as it is all indirectly a part of me, so it will not harm me in any way possible. Now the only thing that is limiting me is that the process of absorbing outside mana and converting it into my own and adding it into my own reserve to increase its size permanently is a very trying process. So that in one day I am only able to increase my mana reserves by 5 stats points. Other than this, I also acquired Precise Chakra Control skill with the description below. Precise Chakra Control, Uke, skill, have an easy time controlling chakra. Just like this my days passed, increasing my strength in every way possible while taking advice from Tifa, as I waited for my shadow avatar to find Latifa's whereabouts. This finally happened on my 5th day in this world, as I was still in the academy. My shadow avatar finally found Latifa's location. But the thing was that Latifa wasn't living alone, she is living with. Chapter 7, Rescue and Treatment. Part 1. Latifa is currently living with another fox girl who we assume to be Latifa's mother, who has had a very high fever for days now, and her situation is degrading as time is passing by. And then both me and Tifa got very angry when we came to know that Rodin's family has not even called a doctor to check Latifa's mother's condition. And while all this is happening, Latifa, who has just gone through the process of soul fusion and its after effects has not subsided, is currently going through a very bad mental pressure, as she is currently helpless and can only see her mother die in front of her eyes. After knowing all this, I and Tifa started planning on how to rescue Latifa and her mother, which is very easy for us, as the place where Latifa and her mother are kept is an isolated place in the corner of the mansion, which is also the reason why my shadow took time to find them, as it was searching for them in the basements and other areas like that. Other than rescuing Latifa, we also planned to deliver a heavy hidden blow to the Rodin house, as while my shadow was checking the entire Rodin's estate to find out Latifa's whereabouts, it came across many hidden vaults and rooms filled with money and other valuable items that no one knows about, not even the current head of the house, as these vaults and rooms haven't been opened in centuries. After I returned to my dorm room in the evening, I directly entered the farm, where Tifa was waiting for me. When she sees me entering the farm, her previous calm expression changes into that of a concerned one on seeing the frown on my face. And the reason behind is that I don't like how Rodin's house has treated Latifa and her mother. To calm me down, Tifa just gave me a strong hug without saying a single word, as both of us know that hugging me is the best way if someone wants to calm down my emotions. After my emotions had calmed down, I hugged Tifa in return, as I whispered in her ear, "Thanks honey, I needed it very much." Fufafu tilde. Don't mention it darling, I can give you as many hugs as you want, but we have much more urgent work to do right now, said Tifa with a smile on her face. Yes, you are right. Let's get ready, but first let me roll the Gacha, as I have been stacking it for the last 4 days. for such an unforeseen situation," I said as I separated from Tifa. Then I opened up the system interface and quickly clicked on the Gacha option, and a familiar Gacha machine appeared in front of me. Without waiting for anything, I quickly selected the 4 consecutive roll option and the Gacha machine started to roll. 5 minutes later, the first reward finally came out and turned out to be 1000 SP, which is much appreciated when we don't know what type of disease Latifa's mother has. After another 5 minutes later, the second reward finally came out, which turned out to be healing tag, consumable, brings the dead back to life, can treat any disease, can regrow missing limbs in no time. Reading the description of the reward, my eyes widened in surprise, as it is a life savior in such a situation. After thanking God in my heart, I continued to roll the Gacha, and the third reward turned out to be an R-rank consumable item in the form of a paper tag that can identify the disease a person is going through, while the fourth reward turned out to be gravity control, SR, skill, allows ITS user to manipulate gravity at whim. Be happy you have just become a god in the eyes of mortals. After checking the rewards, I closed the system interface, and then we waited for the time to pass and for people to fall asleep. After 1 hour later, when I received the okay from my shadow avatar, I turned towards Tifa as I said, "Okay Tifa, the time has come." And she smiled at me and said, "Best of luck darling." Then I opened a portal and walked out into my dorm room, after which I first checked my inventory for all the things I may need, and wore a hooded robe to cover my identity. Then I contacted my shadow avatar and changed places with it at the cost of 1/3 of my mana reserves. After changing places with my shadow, I found myself in a nearly cold, dark room with the moonlight coming from a window being the only light source illuminating the room a little bit. Looking around the room, I found it completely devoid of any living furniture, no water source, or anything else other than a door leading to the restroom and 2 fox girls, one small and one young, hugging each other as they sleep in one of the corners of this room. Seeing this scene, my heart ached and my mood sank. Just as I was feeling depressed again from coming in contact with the dark side of this world, I heard a painful groan coming from the older fox girl, which woke me from my thoughts, and I decided to put all the other things at the back of my mind and do what I am here for. So I started walking towards the 2 fox girls, with my footsteps being the only sound resounding in this quiet and cold room. And when I was just 2 meters away from them, I stopped in my tracks, as I saw that the older fox girl had her eyes open as she looked in my direction with eyes filled with fear, a painful expression on her face, and rolls of sweat running down her face. She and the small girl are wearing ragged clothes with metal collars around their necks, which I suppose are the slave collars talked about in the novel. Part 2. While being in the same position, not moving even a bit, I first uncovered my face, as I have already checked for any hidden surveillance using my Tensigun, which is best for finding hidden things, and noticed how the older fox girl's expression changed into confusion on seeing an unknown face. But a moment later she became vigilant as she tightened her hold around the younger fox girl in her arms. Seeing this, I decided to take the initiative and raised my hand above my head, showing her that I only have 2 paper tags in my hands, as I opened my mouth and said, "Don't worry, I am here to save you and that young girl in your arms." Hearing my words, her eyes changed to a doubting one and then returned to her previous vigilant look as she directly looked at the paper tags in my hands. Knowing what she wants to know, I said, "They are the things that I bring to remove those collars from both of your necks. Trust me, I am here to free both of you," I said while giving her the most comfortable smile I could muster, which must have worked as feelings in her eyes changed again. Previous confusion changed into hope, but she still doesn't lower her vigilance. Seeing this, I started to walk toward them, and as the distance between us decreased, her expression slowly changed into half fear and half hope as she tried to lift her hand, but fell midway due to not having enough energy to do so. Reaching near them, I knelt down on one knee as I stretched out one of my hands holding the paper tag towards the collar on the neck of the older one, and she tightly closed her eyes as if I was going to hurt her. With hundreds of emotions flowing in my mind, I pasted the paper tag on the collar around her neck, and in the next second, the paper tag glowed in a green light as I transferred some of my mana into it to activate its effect. Then in the next second, with a click, the collar around the neck of the older fox girl opened up, and then I carefully removed it from her neck, taking special care not to hurt her already malnourished body. After removing the collar from her neck, I looked at her and saw her shocked expression as she looked at the collar in my hand. Then in the next second tears started to roll down her eyes as she started to sob, and seeing this I become bewildered as I have never calmed down an older crying lady in both of my lives until now. So I turned towards Tifa for help and asked her through our spiritual bond, "Tifa, what should I do now?" "Try to pat her head and say some soothing words. I am sure it will work," advised Tifa, and I quickly worked on it, as I stretched my hand and started patting her head as I said soothing words. "Don't worry, I am with you, everything is okay. No one is going to harm you anymore. We will be out of here in a while, just wait." I continued to repeat these over and over until she calmed down, and then as I was patting her head, I started to enjoy it then and something clicked inside my soul, and at that moment I received a system notification, seeing which the corner of my lips started to twitch, thinking how can I get such a legendary ability just by patting the head of a crying girl? And what's with this description? Hidden conditions meet. Skill unlocked: soothing head pats, L. Soothing head pats, L. Skill acquired. You have a magic in your hands. Your head pats can even calm down the emotions of the incarnation of destruction itself. Only works on female beings. After internally shaking my head, I looked at the older fox girl, who is currently enjoying my head pats with a happy smile on her face as if it was someone else who was crying just a minute ago. Deciding to finish it quickly, I removed my hand from her head as I noticed how her expression changed into a lost one, as if she has just lost an important thing. Seeing this, an amused smile appeared on my face, which I quickly hid and became serious as I said to her, "Okay, now I am going to remove the collar around her neck. After that, we will leave and then we'll treat your disease." Saying this, I waited for a second and received a nod from her. I once again used the paper tag to open the collar and then carefully removed it from around the neck of the young fox girl, who kept sleeping during this whole ordeal. Leaving the two collars on the floor, I decided to pick both of them in my arms, and for that, I slid one of my arms behind the neck and another one under the legs of the older fox girl. Then I used my newly acquired gravity control skill to decrease their weights to an acceptable level and then directly lifted both of them in a princess carry as I noticed the shocked expressions on the face of the older fox girl. After that, I opened a portal leading to the farm, where Tifa is waiting for the three of us. Seeing us enter through the portal, she moved forward, which made the older fox girl a little afraid, so I gave her thighs a little squeeze, which made her look at my face with a surprised expression on her face. Taking this chance to introduce Tifa to her, I said, "Don't be nervous, she is with me." Hearing that, her vigilance relaxed a bit as her tensed body relaxed a bit. "Okay, then, Rio, please enter and lay them down on the bed," said Tifa, as she opened up the door of the wooden cabin and gestured for me to enter. So I did and laid both of them on the bed, after which I handed her over the disease-analyzing paper tag, and a set of clothes for both of them that I have bought from the system shop before the start of the rescue mission. And then after saying, "I am outside, call me once the checkup is finished." Then I went out of the wooden cabin and started practicing swordsmanship with a wooden sword as I waited for Tifa to change them into new clothes after a nice sponge bath and check the disease the older fox girl is suffering from. After an hour, when my mana reserves had fully recovered, I exited my inner world and appeared in that dark and eerie room once again after checking the surrounding area using the surveillance feature of the farm. From there I switched places with my shadow avatar present in my dorm room and appeared there. Then I contacted my shadow avatar and ordered him to empty all the things in the hidden vaults and rooms in Rodin's estate. Doing this, I once again entered the farm where Tifa was waiting for me. Moving close to her, I asked about the condition of the fox girl duo, to which she replied, "I have changed both of their clothes after a nice warm sponge bath, and they are sleeping right now. Both of them are malnourished, and the older fox girl is suffering from fever, for which I have just given her the medicine. Her fever is expected to be down by tomorrow evening, so there is nothing for you to worry about. And one more thing, the older fox girl has said thank you very much, and she would like to talk with you after waking up tomorrow," ended Tifa with a sweet smile on her face. "Okay dear, now it's the time for you to check what rewards you get on completing the mission," said Tifa, and I quickly opened the mission panel of the system, as I have already created a mission regrading Latifah's rescue on the same day I send my shadow after Alphonse. Did you really think I wouldn't take advantage of such a situation? Then surely wrong. After opening the mission panel, I checked for the completed one, and there it was. Quest: Completed. Objective: as someone with a hero title and one who knows about the future, you have decided to change the bleak future for an innocent soul into a bright one. Rescue the innocent soul and deliver justice. Evaluation: SSS Plus, due to rescuing one more innocent soul and delivering proper justice. Rewards: 10x 1000 SP, Talent, Spirit ARTS. Increase your learning speed and talent in Spirit ARTS. 1 Soul Spirit Embryo, gives birth to your personal spirit. Hatching time, 1 year. Seeing the rewards, I am both happy and a little disappointed. Happy on seeing the large amount of SP, and disappointed on getting Soul Spirit Embryo, when I already have 2 spirits with me right now, and 1 more in the outside world, waiting for me for who knows how long. After checking the rewards, Tifa and I talked for a while eating the dinner which I have postponed until now. Then I returned to my dorm room after giving Tifa and Ice good night kiss. Chapter 8, Treasure. Part 1. I/N. From now on the chapters will be in the perspective of the third person. It is the day after Rio rescued the 2 fox girls, who were being kept as slaves by the Rodin's house of the kingdom of Beltrum. While doing this, Rio, using his shadow avatar, has also cleaned all the hidden vaults and hidden rooms present in Rodin's estate for any treasure and any ancient artifact that was there, hidden from the rest of the world, which is currently resting in the shadow dimension of Rio's shadow avatar. Early in the morning, when Rio woke up, he was surprised to see a humanoid shadow figure standing beside his bed. And just as he was about to jump back in fear, he recognized the humanoid figure as his shadow avatar, which has returned from the Rodin's estate after steal. I mean rightfully seizing all the treasure and artifacts hidden in there, as the compensation for what crime they have committed by enslaving the 2 fox girls and his fee for freeing them. Composing himself, Rio asked his shadow avatar a question: "Is the work done?" To which the shadow avatar nodded and then merged with Rio's shadow and transferred the list of the treasure and artifacts it has seized directly into Rio's mind, who in question fell to stabbing pain in his head for a second, as the list is quite large, containing a couple of millions of gold coins and hundreds of millions of diamonds and other precious jewelry. Precious artifacts whom manufacturing processes have become lost with time, and many different types of metals in small quantities, and a whole library perfectly preserved by magic, that contains information on the topics like magic, technology, and the kingdoms present in this world around 1000 years ago. Seeing such a long list, Rio froze for a second and then started laughing a burst of maniacal laughter as he rejoiced at such an unexpected gain. But this maniacal laughter of Rio's quickly comes to a stop as his detective side takes over and he starts to think about what all these precious things were doing there, eating dust for who knows for how many years. For the next 5 minutes, Rio kept sitting on the bed in his dorm room with a serious thinking expression on his face, as the forefinger of his right hand continued to tap his chin, all the while ignoring the sounding of the camera clicking in the background as Tifa takes the picture of his serious thinking face that appears to be very cute for some reason. He continued to think for a while, trying to come up with an explanation for why all these treasures were there. He did come up with many reasonable theories, from which one appeared to be best suited to him. According to Rio's theory, Rodin's family must be a family with a long history, and all these treasures are their family's hidden treasures collected along the long course of history, which only a few of the family members knew about. Mainly the family head of Rio is correct, and when every time a new family head takes over, he must be informed about all these family treasure by the previous one. Now, according to Rio, due to some reason, this tradition of passing the knowledge about this hidden treasure must have broken in the past, and thus all these treasures have been forgotten with time, until Rio got his hands on them, and according to the universal law of finding lost things, all the found treasures belong to the person who has found them. So, all these treasures now belong to Rio, as it was his shadow avatar who found and recovered them all, which is his property. Thinking about all this, Rio's mood becomes happy. Then with a happy grin on his face, he started to transfer all the treasure from the shadow dimension directly into his inventory, and in just a minute, Rio's previously almost empty inventory is now filled with various treasures containing millions of coins made up of gold, silver, and bronze. Other than this, there are hundreds of precious stone, diamonds, metals, ancient artifacts, and a collection of the 1000-year-old books on magic, technology, and other things. After all this, Rio entered his inner world, his farm, with a large happy smile on his face. Entering the farm, he is greeted by an equally happy Tifa, who is sweating internally as she is hiding a bunch of Ryo's pictures behind her back that she has just taken. While Ryo was trying to come up with a reasonable theory about the history of the treasure that his shadow avatar has collected, quickly hiding the picture in her own personal inventory just like Ryo's, Tifa greets Ryo, not giving him time to notice her strange behavior, as she quickly asks about the treasure, in order to take the lead in manipulating the direction of the talk. "Good morning, darling. You appear to be quite happy after finding such a large treasure," Tifa asked Ryo, to which Ryo happily nodded in return as he said, "Yes, honey, I am feeling very happy today." Then Ryo asked back in return, "Well, the same came to be said for you too. So what happened?" Hearing this, Tifa's body stiffened for a moment, but she quickly recovered as she replied, "Foo, darling, as your wife, your happiness is my happiness. That's why seeing you happy also made me happy." "Well, I am happy to hear that. By the way, did any of the two of them wake up yet?" Ryo asked Tifa if any of the two fox girls had woken up after yesterday's night. "No, the younger and older fox girl, whose names are Latifa and Hikari respectively, which Hikari told me herself yesterday during the treatment, hasn't woken up yet, but they are estimated to wake up during your academy hours," Tifa informed Ryo, and then she asked, "So, have you thought of what you are going to tell them when they will ask why you saved them from there? Or are you going to tell them the truth about you being a transmigrator?" Tifa asked Ryo about his future plans, to which Ryo started thinking, and after coming up with a decision he said to Tifa, "Part 2. You see, to me, it looks best to just tell them the truth about me being a transmigrator, whose soul is the combination of all the three following souls, first the original Ryo, second is Haruto, and lastly myself with the system, who is the one in control." Then mixed some lies, as when all these three souls were fusing together, I got glimpses of the location and circumstances in which the souls of the other two girls who died with Haruto had transmigrated into. Knowing the difficult situation in which one of the other two transmigrators has gotten into, I decided to help her since I have the power to do so, and so I did. And now we're here. Ryo ended his explanation, which came out very good, as it sounds very real. Even Tifa is really impressed with Ryo's story-making skills. The story is so good that even Ryo's system also got impressed and decided to grant him +1 in his wisdom stats, for which he will be very happy when he will come to know about it in near future. While Tifa and Ryo are being impressed by Ryo's story-making skill, only Ryo in his heart knows why he decided to do it like this, and the reason is that he is just too lazy to come up with anything else right now. After that, both of them talked for a few minutes, during which they decided to take a look at the treasure at a later date when both the fox girls have recovered completely, as it also contains their compensations for being held captive as slaves for who knows how many years. Other than this, Ryo also asked Tifa to take special care of the younger fox girl called Latifa, as she is the girl previously known as Indosazune, who has a crush on Haruto, and Haruto also had a good impression of her in his heart, which is now passed down to the current him after their souls have fused together. Then both of them went to do their things. Ryo started doing his daily training consisting of 500 sword swings, 40 push-ups, 40 pull-ups, 40 sit-ups, and 2 laps of the farming field on his farm, which rounded off to be 1 kilometer per lap. While Ryo is doing his training, Tifa as a proper housewife cooks the breakfast for him, using the energy-enriched ingredients either bought from the system shop or grown on the farm itself. It now has become Tifa's daily schedule to cook breakfast and dinner for Ryo, as he only eats the food provided by the dorm kitchen for appearance's sake, as an orphan kid skipping breakfast and dinner will surely earn suspicion from the academy authorities. And there is also another reason behind it, which is that the food provided by the dorm kitchen, which is made while taking the appetite of a normal kid in mind, is not enough to meet the calorie requirements that Ryo needs to intake. Due to his daily training, Ryo's diet is twice the size of what a normal kid of his age normally eats, and Ryo also likes to eat food made by Tifa more, as it is tastier than what the dorm kitchen provides, which there are 2 reasons. First, that Tifa is the one cooking, and second, that Tifa uses energy-rich ingredients in her cooking. So now, Ryo eats 2 breakfasts and 2 dinners in a day, one provided by the dorm kitchen and the other specifically made for him by Tifa. Then there is the lunch, which he only eats from the academy kitchen, as he can't enter his farm while being in the academy, where he is surrounded by many children and professors, who will quickly notice his disappearance due to him being the only non-noble kid studying in the academy. Chapter 9. Sword Practice and Reactions. Part 1. 3 hours time skip. In the practice grounds of the Royal Academy of the Kingdom of Beltrum, one can see hordes of small, uniform-clad children lined in rows and rows of straight lines as they wait for the orders from their instructor. Among them is Rio. As nobles, you must have at least a minimum knowledge of martial arts, said a brawny man that stood in front of the students. Rio is currently in his martial arts class, and this brawny man is the martial arts instructor of the Royal Academy, who is currently talking about the importance of the knowing martial arts for nobles. The male students all held a wooden sword and shield in their hands, while the female students had wooden staves. Continuing on from our last lesson, today we will be learning about form. Repeat the form I taught you last time for 10 reps in one set, for 5 sets. Do them slowly and check how you move. Once you're done, form groups of 2 and check your partner's movements for 5 sets, ordered the instructor, following which the students began to move. The male students, in particular, swung their wooden swords enthusiastically. Giving the task to all the students other than Rio, the instructor focuses on Rio as he has a special order to follow, which is to monitor his every action during martial arts class to check if he is really an enemy spy or not, as some nobles still have their doubts even after 5 days of surveillance. And Rio, who is unknown to all these schemes in the dark, is rejoicing in his heart as now after this class he will have a reason to cover up why he knew how to use swords. And to tell you the truth, he wouldn't have even cared about all these schemes going in the dark even if he were to know about them. Rio, I'll teach you personally since you don't know the forms yet. Follow me, said the instructor, and Rio obediently followed him. They headed for an area away from the rest of the students and stood face to face, a moderate distance apart from each other. Have you ever held a sword before, Rio? Yes, technically, Rio admitted. Strictly speaking, the one that he is now talking about is Haruto's experience of holding a katana. The katana Haruto's grandfather owned in his previous life. I see. Then, first, I'll review how well you can use it. Try and land a blow on me with that sword. Come at me when you're ready, the instructor said, holding his sword up. What an action-oriented man. Rio's mouth twitched in a wry smile at the simple progression of the conversation. This instructor believed in talking through the body rather than words. However, his posture was very practical and refined, even from Rio's perspective, who is just a beginner. His skill appears to be authentic. But what should I do about my stance? Rio pondered as he adjusted his grip on the sword. He didn't understand the principles yet, but from the training he has been doing for the last 4 days, Rio is able to grasp a small portion of the correct stances, which is more than enough to let the instructor doubt him. And if that happened, he'd have to explain himself, which is something Rio is too lazy to do. So in the end, Rio decided, it's probably best to just use my natural strength while showing that I am just doing what naturally comes to me. Once Rio had decided, he held the sword ready. Though he had never held a shield at the same time as a sword before, he improvised. Seeing the unfamiliar stance, the instructor asked Rio, is that a stance of your own style? Yes, that's correct, Rio replied. I see. You seem to have talent. The instructor grinned. In the next instant, Rio took off running straight for the instructor. Just as he has been practicing for the last 4 days, he approached, then cut. That's what swordcraft boiled down to. As though embodying that mantra, Rio approached the instructor and swung his sword with a test swing. The instructor easily received the sword. Instructor murmured as though he was impressed, staring at Rio's grip and blade control on the sword. Good grasp of the sword. Your wrist won't hurt that way, said the instructor as he evaluated Rio's stance and gripping posture. And Rio, hearing his instructor's evaluation, concluded that this man had excellent observation skills, fitting for an instructor. It wasn't easy to hide the basic techniques he had already learned. That being said, his posture was a bit unique due to his unfamiliarity with holding a shield. Rio swung the wooden sword again, and again, and again, but the instructor handled them all with an elegant deftness. Of course, there was no way a child could compare with an instructor in a duel, in both strength and speed. Rio has to rely on his technical ability if he were to have a chance at landing a blow, but using all the techniques he learned from Haruto's experience with his grandfather in his previous life would also be considered abnormal. Well, I doubt he actually expects me to land a blow. Rio assessed the situation calmly. Good. Well done, Rio. Could do with a little more fire in you, but you're suited for knighthood. The instructor beamed. He was as hot-blooded as Rio predicted. To be honest, it was a bit stifling. Unfortunately, I have no interest in becoming a knight. What? Well, you'll be at the academy for a long time. I'll make sure to teach you all the swordcraft a knight needs, so don't worry. Was that meant to be reassuring? Their conversation wasn't coalescing at all. Ryo swung his sword with a bitter smile. Then, swish. Suddenly, the instructor launched a swift strike against Ryo, who due to his improved eyesight calculated the trajectory of the sword swing and reflexively stepped back to evade it. Oh. So you can react to that? The instructor murmured in awe. You're not meant to be the one attacking, sir. Ryo refuted. There's no rule against it. But now I know your strength. That's enough. The instructor lowered his sword. Ryo followed suit. As a child, you don't have much speed or power. However, your movements were very refined. You have quite the talent when it comes to handling a sword, but it would have been better if you had incorporated your shield into your attacks, said the instructor as he gave Ryo pointers to improve. Thank you, sir, Ryo said gratefully. Good. Now, we shall move on to learning forms. Please, give me your guidance. Ryo bowed his head. Ryo spent some time learning Beltram-style swordcraft from the instructor. As he was rather quick on the uptake, Ryo was able to imitate the forms easily after seeing them a few times. I/N. From now on it will be Beltram. The instructor found this amusing and showed him one form after another until they lost track of time doing so. I'd better get back soon. The other students have started finishing up, said the instructor as he realized how fast the time has flown, and the students have completed their assigned tasks. They walked back to where the other students were. Just then, Ryo felt someone looking at him. He glanced over in the direction of the gaze. It was Christina and Roanna. The other students, who were separated from him, had shown no interest in Ryo. The boys were trying to show off in front of the girls with their eager sword swings, while the girls noisily chatted away as they watched them. HMPH. Christina huffed in displeasure and immediately broke their eye contact, openly showing that she is jealous of Ryo due to his talent in swordsmanship. Next to her, Roanna, who had been Christina's partner for the practice sets, was in a state of shock as she stared at Ryo. Were they watching me? Ryo questioned in his head. Then as he noticed Christina's jealous expression, he smiled an amused smile in his heart. Then with a bow towards them to show his respect, he left the place after taking a last glance at the two girls and showing an amused smile to Christina, as if telling her that he knew that she is jealous of him, which in turn made Christina embarrassed as a light blush appeared on her soft cheeks which she quickly hides, and then she sighed an internal sigh of relief that Roanna hasn't noticed her blushing appearance as she is still in shock and awe as she looks at Ryo's departing back. Part 2. While all this was happening with Ryo, inside his farm Tifa was explaining things to the now awake Latifah and Hikari just as Ryo had asked her, at the end of which both of them were shocked for different reasons. Indosazune aka Latifah is crying non-stop as now that the side effects of the soul fusion have ended, the realization that she has died and reincarnated into another world as someone else has hit her really hard, whereas Hikari is shocked, and her emotions are in turmoil on knowing that the soul of a dead girl from another world has fused with the soul of her older sister's daughter, whom she has been raising for the last 5 years as her little sister. Yes, you hear it right. Latifah is the daughter of Hikari's older sister. 5 years ago one day when Hikari, her older sister with her 3-month-old daughter were collecting herbs near their village in the wilderness, they encountered a group of slave hunters, who had somehow wandered near their village at that time. So to let her sister and daughter escape, Hikari's older sister decided to divert the attention of the slaver to herself, allowing her younger sister to escape with her daughter. But everything doesn't go as planned. A slaver saw Hikari escaping with the child and ran after her, which ended with her being captured by them. Then she was transported and sold to the Rodin's house in the kingdom of Beltram, where she has been trying to survive for the last 5 years, as she is being mistreated by the wife of the head of the house just for fun, all the while raising the daughter of her older sister with the best of her abilities. Now, on seeing Latifah who has been crying non-stop, she doesn't know what to do as her emotions are in turmoil. This is a normal thing to happen, and it would be abnormal if it is not the case. Just as Hikari was having an inner debate in her heart, with two opposite thoughts fighting for dominance. One part of Hikari is telling her to hug the crying Latifah as she is the girl she has been raising for the last 5 years like her little sister. Another thought is that now Latifah is not the girl she had raised for the last 5 years, instead she is someone else in her body. And just as Hikari is thinking all this, Tifa, who has noticed Hikari's situation, walks near her and places her hand on Hikari's shoulder. This action of Tifa wakes Hikari out of her inner thought, and then she looks at Tifa with complicated emotions in her eyes. Seeing this, Tifa gave her a calming smile as she said the next words that gave her the much-needed enlightenment. Hikari-san, if I am correct, then you are just overthinking things. Indosazune's soul has fused with Latifa's soul doesn't mean that it has overtaken her soul. Instead, it means that a new personality has been created from their fusion who is as equal as Indosazune as she is Latifa, the girl you raised for 5 years like your own little sister. And right now, your daughter needs your help in calming down her emotions that are in turmoil just like yours, but they just have a greater effect on her due to her immature mind. So please go and help her in calming her emotions, said Tifa, as she tries to show Hikari the right path to choose, which proved out to be easy for her as her motherly personality shows the effect and helped Hikari in calming her emotion, which helped her in thinking things through with a rational mind. And as the result, just in half a minute Hikari made her decision and walked toward the crying Latifa, and then she pulled her into her embrace as she pats her back while whispering sweet words in Latifa's ears, which helped the latter one in calming down her jumbled emotions. And after some 20 minutes of soul-soothing treatment from Hikari, Latifa fell asleep after crying her emotions out. After putting the sleeping Latifa under the blanket, Tifa and Hikari started a conversation of their own, in which Hikari kept asking questions about Ryo, his past life, how did he die, and other things, to which Tifa only replied the question which Ryo wouldn't mind, like how he died, while not answering any question related to Ryo's previous life, only answering, sorry, but you have to directly ask Ryo if you want to know about anything related to his previous life. On getting the same reply to her every question related to Ryo's past life, Hikari decided to wait for Ryo to come to ask him directly. Instead, she started asking Tifa what is his favorite dishes, his likes and dislikes, and other things, which Tifa happily answered as she enjoys everything related to Ryo. Chapter 10, Talks and Talks. Part 1. 1 hour after the martial arts class. Ryo is currently standing in front of Celia's lab as he knocks on the door. Knock knock. Professor Celia, Ryo says while knocking on the door of Celia's lab. Professor Celia, it's me, Ryo, says Ryo again, followed by another series of knocking. This time, Ryo gets a reply to his knocks in the form of the sound of someone stumbling on something, which is followed by a sound of many things falling on the ground at the same time, then a painful cry from Celia. On hearing Celia's painful cry, Ryo knocks on the door of the lab as he says, Professor, what happened? In reply to his question, Ryo only got some more painful cries from Celia, so he decided to just directly enter the lab and see the situation inside by himself. Professor, I am coming in. Saying this, Ryo quickly enters the lab, where he sees a room filled with all types of unorganized things, mainly papers and some pieces of equipment that Celia uses in her experiments. Amid all this mess, Ryo sees Celia lying on the ground, surrounded by many broken pieces of equipment, with a painful expression on her face as she grabs her left ankle. Then Ryo quickly made his way towards Celia's, all the while being careful not to trip over something. Reaching Celia, Ryo asks her, Professor, what happened? To this Celia replies with a bitter smile, I was busy in my research as usual when I heard your voice, and just as I was going to open the door for you, I slipped on some liquid, which I accidentally dropped before, and forgot to clean. Then just as I was falling, I tried to grab anything I could get my hands on for support, and this is the result. Ryo finished Celia's answer for her. Then with an internal sigh, Ryo looks at Celia's left ankle, which is injured, most likely a sprain. Professor, let me take a look, says Ryo, and on getting a nod from Celia, Ryo carefully removes her left shoe, followed by her knee-high socks, which reveal a badly sprained ankle that has already become purple. Celia let out a painful cry as Ryo checked the injury. Sorry, Professor, but I need to check the extent of the injury, says Ryo with a bitter smile, to which Celia replied with a nod as she tries to control her tears, as even if she has become a professor in the Royal Academy, she is still a 12-year-old girl who feels pain on getting an injury and wants to cry due to how much pain she is feeling. But she can't, since she didn't want Ryo, her only friend other than Arya Governess, to see her cry like a baby. In the last 4 days, both of them have become good friends. Ryo has offered her help in cleaning her lab many times. In return, she has given him some private lessons on other subjects while teaching him how to brew good tea in their free time, which both of them enjoy. Unknown to what is going in Celia's head, Rio continued to check the extent of the injury and finds out that he can fix it from the experience of his past life. As in past he was a very active kid, always getting injuries which were then treated by his grandfather, and a sprain is the most common injury he always got at that time from playing football. Professor, I think I can fix your ankle. Do you want me to? Rio asked Celia, who was looking at her with a surprised expression on her face. Well, Professor, you see, my dead mother, as an adventurer, knew some basic healing tricks which she taught me as I always got injured in the slums, Rio explained to Celia with a sad smile on his face. Seeing this, Celia felt bad as she once again reminded him of his dead mother, so to change the topic she says, Rio, if you please. Okay, but we first have to get you to sit in a proper place, said Rio as he looks around and finds an empty sofa near the tea table, which is the only clean place in the whole lab right now. Professor, how about that sofa there? Rio asked Celia while pointing in the direction of it. To which Celia said okay. Then Professor, would you be able to walk through all this mess? Rio asks Celia, to which she shakes her head in embarrassment as she is the one behind all this mess. With another internal sigh, Rio quickly picks her up in a princess carry, and she lets out a cute yelp of embarrassment as she became flustered due to the closeness between Rio and herself. ROW, what are you doing, G? Professor, of course, I am taking you towards the sofa. Or do you want me to do something else? Rio teases her, which makes Celia's face bright red from the tip of her ears to her neck. Carefully making his way toward the empty sofa, Rio put Celia on it. On losing Rio's touch, Celia felt a sense of loss in her heart as she kept looking at Rio's face, which he also noticed but decided to play strange for now. Okay, I am going to fix it. Be ready as it is going to hurt for a second, Rio warned Celia as he grabbed her left ankle. Receiving a nod from her, Rio swiftly twists her ankle and fits the displaced bone in its original position as Celia growls in pain, with a few tears rolling down her face. Rio quickly swipes off her tears with his handkerchief and then patted her head for a while using her comfortable head pat skill, easing her pain and making her bliss, which later turns into a loss when Rio stops patting her head. Professor, does it still hurt? Rio asks Celia, ignoring the lost expression on her face. Then coming back to her senses she replies, no, the pain has subsided to a tolerable level. That's good. Then Professor, please use your healing magic to heal your torn ankle ligaments, while I brew some tea for both of us to drink. Rio instructed Celia about the next step of the treatment and then went to brew tea for both of them. Part 2. 5 minutes later, Rio comes back with the tea set containing the freshly brewed tea and serves 2 cups, one for Celia and one for himself. Professor, here, Rio said as he passed the freshly brewed tea to Celia. Thank you, Rio, Celia says, accepting the tea. You're welcome, Rio replies with a smile and then takes the seat across the table. Then both of them start drinking tea. Taking the first sip, Celia has a smile on her face as she says to Rio, Rio, your tea brewing skills are improving at a very fast pace. If it continues, I am afraid that you will surpass me in no time. Hearing this, Rio gave a polite smile as he said, Professor, it's also because you are the one who is teaching me. Foo. So, Rio, how was your day? Celia asks Rio after a small laugh. Hearing Celia's question, Rio told her about his day in the academy, which now at this point of time has become a routine for both of them. Celia was surprised to hear that he was personally trained by his martial arts instructor, as that man is also the one who taught Alfred, the current Knight Captain of Kingdom's Knight Army. During the talk between them, Rio also reprimanded her and asked her to promise him that she will keep her lab clean from now on, otherwise, he will become angry and will stop talking with her. At this, Celia becomes afraid that Rio might really stop talking with her, so she hurriedly promises him that she will keep it in mind. Seeing Celia's flustered expressions, Rio starts to laugh. At this, Celia also realized that Rio was teasing her and became angry as she pouted, which made Rio laugh even more. Celia, on seeing Rio laughing, also became happy in her heart, as her anger disappeared into the thin air. After that, Rio teased Celia a little more, then he helped Celia in cleaning the lab. Then he took his leave and returned to his dorm room. But before Rio left Celia's lab, she told him that she wouldn't be here for the next 2 days as the academy is off on weekends, and she is going to meet his father and spend some time with him. I/N. For your information, I didn't find any information about the calendar of this world, so I am going write this fanfic while thinking that this world had the same calendar as our world. Then after Rio returned to his dorm, he entered his farm, where he came face to face with Tifa, Latifa, and Hikari, with Latifa hiding behind Hikari, who is now looking a little better than before, after being fully healed, all because of the medicines she ate before, which were bought from the system shop. Seeing Rio, Hikari stepped forwards with Latifa, then both of them bowed down together as she said, "Rio-sama, thank you very much for saving both of us from that place. If it weren't for you, I might have died in a few days, and then God knows what they might have done with Latifa. To show our gratitude, please let me serve you for the rest of my life. Please don't refuse my request." Hearing Hikari's sincere voice, Rio couldn't help but take a step back as he looked at Tifa with a pleading expression on his face. Seeing that Tifa just shook his head, using their mental connection, she tells him, "Dear, just accept it. I have tried to persuade her, but she isn't listening. And it is also a good thing, as from what I have learned, she is also a user of astral arts. After accepting her servitude, you can ask her to teach you." Knowing this, Rio asked Tifa, an astral arts user, then why didn't she try to escape before? Or what's about her spirit companion? As if I'm correct, then everyone in their village has one. It was because she can't use it at that time, as those slave collars were blocking her magic. As for her spirit companion, she didn't have one, as she was kidnapped before she could have one for herself. Tifa explains. At this, Rio let out his third internal sigh of the day. Then he turned towards the two bowing fox girls and said, "Hikari, Latifa, I accept your thanks. Can you two please stop bowing? It is making me feel bad." Both of the fox girls stop bowing as they stand straight. Then Hikari asks, "So, does Rio-sama accept my servitude?" With a helpless expression on his face, Rio asked Hikari, "If I were to say no, would you accept?" Rio asks in hope, which is mercilessly crushed by Hikari as she shakes her head. Seeing this, Rio also shakes his head in helplessness. Then with a resolute expression he says, "Okay, I accept your servitude, Hikari, and please stop adding Sama after my name. You and Latifa can call me by my name, Rio." Hearing this, Hikari becomes happy. With a happy smile on her face, she says, "Okay, then we will be in your care from now on. Rio and Tifa, please take care of us from now on. Please, take care of us from now on." Latifa also followed suit. Okay, let's end all the formalities here," Rio said, and then walked towards Latifa, who became nervous about seeing him coming closer. Rio reaches in front of Latifa and then rubs her hair, making them disheveled, which in turn makes her angry as she looks at Rio with a pout. Seeing this, Rio and others let out a laugh. After stopping laughing, Rio looks at Latifa with a smile and then says, "So, should I call you Sazun or Latifa?" Hearing Rio's question, Latifa looks at Hikari and then at Rio, as she says in a low but firm voice, from the heart, "I am both, but I would prefer if you were to call me by the name that my mother in this world gave me, which is Latifa." At this, everyone has a smile on their faces, and the biggest one is on Hikari's face. "It looks like you have finally made your decision, thus ending the after effects of the transmigration," said Rio as he pats Latifa's head. Latifa has question marks on her face on hearing Rio talking about the after effects of the transmigration, so she asked him, "What do you mean, Rio?" Just as Rio was opening his mouth to answer Latifa's question, Tifa beat him as she started explaining, "Well, when a soul transmigrates into a new body, it combines with the original soul inhabiting it. This results in the formation of a new soul, which is the combination of the previous two. And since this soul is made up of two souls, it has the experience of living two different lives from the perspective of two different souls. And with the combination of two perspectives of two previous souls, a new personality for the new soul is born, which controlled the body. New personality took time to form. It can be born at the same time as the new soul is born, or it can even take years. In the latter case, it creates problems for the new soul as it couldn't resolve its emotions, which causes many psychological problems if left untreated for a long time, like a double personality disorder. In simple terms, when two souls are combined together, a new soul is produced, and the personality of this new soul takes time to develop, which happens when the experience of two souls are completely combined together. And the time taken for the development of a new personality after successful transmigration is known as the after effects of the transmigration, explained Tifa. Hearing Tifa's explanation, Latifa nodded her head. Then Rio asked Latifa, Okay, now that your doubt has been cleared, how about we go in and eat dinner as I am starving to death? Just as Rio ended saying this, his stomach let out a growl of hunger, which made everyone laugh. Okay, let go, otherwise dear's stomach will keep growling, said Tifa while smiling. Then all of them went inside the wooden cabinet, where they all ate a lavish dinner. Then after eating dinner, all of them chatted for a while, during which Hikari and Latifah asked Rio, one with the system, about his previous life, and Rio told them, well, for a coincidence my name in my previous life was also Rio Celsius. Both of my parents passed away when I was around 4, so I was raised by my grandfather for most of my life, who in question also passed away when I was 17, to meet my grandmother who was already dead even before my birth. 2 years later, one day when I was going home from college I died and then met an old man proclaiming himself a god, who granted me 3 wishes as it was due to his mistake that I died. Then I asked for my wishes, then he sent me into this body. Hearing Rio's life story, Latifah asked him many questions, after which all of them went to sleep. Rio went off the farm into his dorm room, as it was the time for dorm dean's daily inspection. Thereafter successfully deceiving the dean, Rio first gained all the experience from his shadow avatar, and then after doing some light physical training, Rio went to bed after wishing Tifa good night. The end. Thank you for listening. Like and share this video and subscribe the channel for notification alert for the continuation of this audiobook series.